What's up everybody, welcome back to a brand new video on Lexalexus. Today it is the return of my Premier League weekly score predictions. Yesterday you saw me predict the Championship again since the international break. This time we're making it to the Premier League. This is game week 9. We've got a top of the table clash with a North London derby, we've got a Manchester derby, and we've got a bottom of the table clash. These games this weekend are definitely the most excited amount of games that I've seen so far, and I cannot wait to not only predict it but to see what you guys are predicting as well. It should be a very unpredictable but really intense weekend, hopefully. If you guys want to be involved in the Premier League prediction league, you can do that by, once again, likewise with the Championship one, by just simply commenting your score predictions in the comments down below. It's free to do, and I'll be entering your points, and if you enter enough, your name will be featured on that league. So get predicting, guys, because we are just about to begin. If you guys like what you see, please give the video a like. It does tremendously help the channel. Please hit the subscribe button if you've not done so. It really helps the growth of this channel. Let's try and go for 1,500 subscribers. We're not far away from that. So guys, please rally forward and continuously support the channel. It really helps, and please share this channel too. This helps as well. But without any further ado, let's start predicting the Premier League games for this weekend. And what better way to start predicting the weekend with the North London derby between Arsenal and Spurs. I think this is going to be really tight. I mean, Spurs are one of only 2 teams in the Premier League to still be unbeaten at this point of the season, with 5 wins and 2 draws, joint on points with Manchester City. A good victory against Arsenal will momentarily put them top of the table as well. So whoever wins this very game will be top of the table before the 3 PM kickoffs start to commence with us. Arsenal have won more games than any other team in the Premier League so far this season, with 6 wins out of 7. The only time they lost was against Manchester United, of course. And what really impressed me was actually that how well they responded. You know, they were facing a Brentford team who were, in their own right, in the top half, still potentially pushing to be within the European places before the international break. But Arsenal played really well and actually had a real deserved comfortable victory too. And that really impressed me to see the before and after of how Arsenal dealt with a very competitive team like Brentford. And I think in this North London derby, it's going to be no exception to that as well. It is at the Emirates, and I gotta say, if any team could beat Spurs this season, it will be this Arsenal team. Not a lot, I think, is going to separate them. I think one team will edge it by 1 goal. And I'm actually going to back the Gunners to get a result here. So this will be Spurs' first defeat of the season if it does happen. I'm going to predict a 2-1 victory to Arsenal, and they will have the bragging rights of London. Let me know what you think of that in the comments down below. Next game to predict is going to be in the 3 PM kickoffs. Let's start off with Bournemouth versus Brentford. So Bournemouth, to be fair on their part, they've not got a permanent manager in. They're still using Gary O'Neill as really like the head honcho at the moment. But since then, they've not been doing too badly. They're actually unbeaten in their last 3 games, picking up 5 points in their last 3 games. And because of this, Bournemouth have got a little bit of breathing space between them and the bottom 3, by 4 points actually, to be precise actually. So those last 3 games definitely lifted them up out of the bottom 3 entirely. They face a Brentford team where they've done relatively well this season. Yes, they've only won 2 games this season, but they've only lost 2 games this season. So Brentford have definitely been a lot more of a difficult team to get a really good result against these days. I definitely think Brentford need to work on potentially their back line, because I definitely saw it when they beat Leeds. They beat Leeds by 5 goals to 2. But despite scoring 5 goals, they conceded 2 goals in a manner as well. And against Arsenal, they conceded 3 goals there. I think their only clean sheet this season, Brentford, was against Manchester United with that 4-0 victory. So Brentford need to work defensively. With this game, however, I have a feeling Brentford might respond here. I think they're going to be well organised in the way that I think their midfield, would dominate Bournemouth. And I think if they win the midfield battle of Brentford, I think they'll be very dangerous. So as a prediction, I'm going to go for a 2-0 away victory to Brentford. But Bournemouth more than capable of getting a result for what I've seen of them quite recently. So I'll go 2-0 Brentford. Let me know what you think of that in the comments down below. Next game to predict is Crystal Palace versus Chelsea. So another derby, technically. This is a London derby. And honestly, I actually think this will be a very interesting matchup. Graham Potter, who was previously Brighton manager. Palace and Brighton have a little bit of rivalry. So Potter would definitely feel determined that he would want to get a result here against his old rivals there. Crystal Palace, with their start of the season, they've only won one game so far this season, and they are 16th place in the table, only above the bottom three by 2 points. A defeat against Chelsea would definitely leave them exposed, potentially even falling in the bottom three if things don't go their way with other results. Chelsea currently in 7th place at the moment with 3 wins out of 6, so a 50% win rate percentage, but we have lost 2 games already this season and 2 very poor away games against the likes of Leeds and Southampton. I do worry about Chelsea's away form, but the only thing that's giving me a bit of hope is that in general, Chelsea's record against Crystal Palace in terms of the teams that sit back quite a bit or are competitive in around the mid-table position, Chelsea have got a relatively strong record against those teams. I talked about Leeds and Southampton, being in similar positions, but Chelsea not having great records against. Palace is a bit of an exception. Somehow we've got a really good record against Palace. So I think if I'm going to base it off form, the fact that Potter will want to really get a result here, and I think the Chelsea players over the international break have done a really good job. Havertz and Mount, we've all seen in our own eyes how much they were important to their own teams between England and Germany. I'm going to go for a Chelsea win, which is something I never thought I'd say on my channel. I'm going to go for a 3-1 away victory to Chelsea. If it results in Palace winning, then it's going to really, really backfire. I'm never predicting Chelsea to win again, but I'll go 3-1 Chelsea this time. Let me know what you think of that in the comments down below. Next game to predict is Fulham versus Newcastle. I think this is going to be very tight. Fulham, I think, are going to be one of the teams' biggest surprise of the season so far to be within the top 6. In around this stage of the season, I think is really good for Fulham there. And they've got some great distance from the bottom 3 as well, a 7-point gap. And to have that gap already, I think will definitely give Fulham some confidence as well. I think I expected it actually from Marco Silva that I think he will make Fulham a lot more competitive. I know I predicted Fulham to go down, but I did predict them to go down in 18th. Quite a few people I saw predicting Fulham to be, 19th or 20th place alongside with Bournemouth really. So I'll have a small pan at that, but I'm not really giving myself too much credit at the moment for the fact that Fulham are above Chelsea right now. So I think Fulham, you've got to give them credit. Mitrovic is just a man on form, not only doing it at club level, he's doing it in international level as well, scoring some very crucial goals for Serbia in their recent encounters in the Nations League. They have got to play against a Newcastle team where they've not really got going, really. They've only won 1 game so far. Newcastle going through a little bit of an winless run at the moment. But having said that, Newcastle have actually only lost 1 game this season. The problem is Newcastle, they keep drawing games. With a prediction like this, though, I have a feeling that I feel that Fulham could get a result here. Mitrovic will be playing against his former club as well, and I'm going to be really excited to see how he's going to be received by the Newcastle fans there. And I think Mitrovic might actually get the difference, in this game. So as a prediction, I'm going to go for a 2-1 victory to Fulham. Why not? I've not really predicted many good results for Fulham so far. So I'll give them a good result here. I'll give for 2-1 Fulham. Let me know what you think of that in the comments down below. Next game to predict is Liverpool versus Brighton. So a stat that was quite incredible that I found out. There's only 5 days in October where a Premier League club is actually not featured in either a Premier League or a Champions League game or any competitive game, which is incredible. October is going to be a very busy month with football. And I tell you what, with Jurgen Klopp with his excuses about, play time and fatigue, he's going to absolutely lose his nut when he sees the October schedule there. Liverpool have been a little bit touch and go, to be honest, for this season, though. But having said that, they're still able to regurgitate, some form there here and there. They are on 9 points so far, only 1 point below Chelsea, actually, and still only 3 behind Manchester United. The reason I'm intrigued of this game is that not only are Brighton above Liverpool, and Liverpool, even if they win, they actually won't overtake Brighton. This is going to be the first game that I see with Roberto De Zerbi as Brighton's new manager. So I haven't really given you my reaction of it. I haven't really heard much of him, but I have seen his managerial credentials. You know, he was Shakhtar Donetsk manager. He also formerly managed Sassuolo as well in Serie A. So he has got pretty good pedigree, some good clubs that he's managed for there. Bit of a wild card, I think, but I think with the reviews that I've seen, he's definitely, I've seen more good than bad, if that makes sense. I definitely think it's going to be very difficult for him to repeat what Graham Potter did to really elevate Brighton to be a very competitive club, with all things considered. But I feel like it really couldn't have been a worse game for De Zerbi to even start off with his managerial career away at Anfield. I just don't think it's ideal, but it's going to be a really intriguing test for Brighton. They've only lost one game so far this season, which was against Fulham, so I think they'll be competitive, but I feel like if De Zerbi, you know, plays an overly attacking way and they leave spaces, Liverpool are just going to punish you. And, you know, they did the same against Bournemouth, and I think they will do something a little bit similar here. I'm actually going to go for a 3-0 victory to Liverpool. So Brighton to concede quite a fair few goals, which is, you know, not very unlike them at the start of the season. But with new management, I think it's going to take a little bit of time for things to click. So I'll say 3-0 Liverpool. Let me know what you think of that in the comments down below. Next game to predict is Southampton versus Everton. Both teams in the lower half of the table. Southampton in 14th place. Everton in or around 13th, actually. So it's kind of like a mid-table battle, if I can see. But both teams, if they don't win in their retrospective game, they could get pulled into potentially, you know, within the bottom three if results go against them. But a win for either one of them will put them on 10 points and actually could see them go as high up as 8th place in the table. Considering that both teams weren't given so much confidence with their starts of the season, that'll be a really good achievement to get at this stage. Southampton have got some really good starts, and I definitely think Everton have surprised me a little bit more, considering with the amount of quality they lost, how they're still able to churn in some pretty decent results. You know, Everton have been a really difficult team to beat so far this season, with only 2 defeats so far. But it's been their winning that's been a problem. With only 1 win, Everton have managed to pick up all season at the moment. So they definitely need to work on that. As a prediction, both teams have been really good at drawing games. So I'm going to go for another draw here. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw between these two teams. Let me know what you think of that in the comments down below. Next game to predict is West Ham versus Wolves. So both teams in the lower part of the table, you can see it as a relegation 6 point, because West Ham are 18th and Wolves are 17th. And what is a big problem, I feel, is definitely both teams' back lines. They've both got a negative goal difference by quite some way. West Ham conceding 9 goals in 7, and Wolves conceding 7 goals in 7, which is averaging 1 goal conceded a game. And conceding that Wolves, that were a really good defensive team, this season they've not really quite shown it. They both have only won 1 game each so far this season as well, which is not good enough with the expectations of these two teams. I do feel more confidence in West Ham, despite them losing back-to-back games. I think their performances do suggest that they still have something within them. Wolves, however, I just don't really see where the goals are coming from. For both teams, they've only scored 3 goals, so maybe it could be a very dull 0-0 draw, but something tells me that West Ham might snatch something here. As a prediction, I'm going to go for a 2-0 victory to West Ham. Let me know what you think of that in the comments down below. And I mean, West Ham do get out of the bottom 3, but Wolves will then replace them. The next game to predict is the Manchester derby between Manchester City and Manchester United. Both teams high up the table, with Manchester City pushing Arsenal, you know, with only 1 point behind them in second. Manchester United in 5th place, and if Manchester United get a good result there, they'll close the gap on City by 2 points actually. So Manchester United will definitely enter into the mix if they get a win here. So I feel this game is a really big test, but could also be a big statement game for Manchester United if they want to be featured within the top half of the table and in that conversation. I do think, however, Manchester City, with the potential and quality and depth that they have, which I think trounces with that squad compared to Manchester United's squad, I feel like Manchester City will still be able to cut through this back line of Manchester United. I'm not completely sold of its back line as of yet, especially with a couple of injuries and with their attacking players as well. you're really looking at Ronaldo being the relatively fit one. You've got Rashford and Martial pulling injuries there, so that could be quite problematic for Man United there. As a prediction, I'm going to go for a Man City win, a 3-1 victory to Manchester City. Let me know what you think of that in the comments down below. Next game is Leeds and Aston Villa. I mean, I'm always going to love this game. Just remembering what that game was like in the 2018-19 season in the Championship. I'm always going to get really fond memories of these two teams against each other with Bielsa versus Dean Smith there. I always really enjoy this matchup. And I'm really hoping for another similar spectacle there. I might be wrong in saying, but I think Jesse Marsch is still having a touchline ban. I've not looked into it, but I know he definitely received his ban from the FA, which I still think, just let someone have passion, for goodness sake. It was basically him, being outraged about decisions that were against Leeds when they played against Brentford. So I think with this game, it'll be intriguing because Aston Villa have improved a little bit. I was very worried about them for one point, but they have won their last game, which I believe was against Crystal Palace, actually. Because of this, Aston Villa are now no longer around in 17th. They're now up to 15th. But considering the squad they've got and the money they've spent, Aston Villa have definitely been another team that have underperformed this season. Leeds maybe arguably overperformed. They're 11th place right now with 2 wins. But since they've had a really, good start to the season with 2 wins in opening 4 games, they've actually, been winless in their last 3. So this is a good chance for Leeds to potentially get a good result, especially as it's at Ellen Road. As a prediction, I'm going to go for a really feisty 2-2 draw. I think it's going to be very tense between the two teams. Let me know what you think of that in the comments down below. And the last game to predict. Now, this is going to be a debate. Is this a derby? Some people will say it is, some people say it won't be. So I'm not going to offer any opinion on it. But it is a local game between Leicester and Nottingham Forest, and both occupy the bottom 2 places of the Premier League. It might as well be a cup final for both of these teams, but especially for Leicester. Leicester are really struggling right now with only 1 point picked up so far this season, only 1 draw, which actually came in their opening day of the season when they went 2-0 up to Brentford, and since conceding those 2 late goals, they've lost every single game since then. Nottingham Forest, despite picking up 4 points in game 2 and game 3, they've lost all their other games, and they really need to start finding a consistent squad, Steve Cooper. And I think he's got a really unique problem in terms of the depth that he's got now, and he's got to try and fit players in certain positions to find what squad will be best suited for the Premier League. I mean, tactically, it's very testing for him as well, considering how people are going to look at Forest, the expectations they're going to have. I feel like Cooper's got to very similarly, go to like how he did against the big boys in the FA Cup, and I'm really upset that I'm not really seeing Forest having that same confidence and flow that they had. They do feel quite severely weakened with the players that have left them, and then the players that they join. It just doesn't feel right, if that makes sense. And I gotta say, I feel like both these teams, you wouldn't back them to win this game, but for me, I think one of them's got to. And with Leicester being at home and Forest, being really unconvincing away from home, I'm going to go for Leicester to get their first win of the season here. This will really make some Forest fans upset, but Leicester with a win here will actually overtake Nottingham Forest. So they have every motivation to try and win this game, take them off the table. I'm going to go for a very cagey 1-0 victory. Both these teams concede quite a fair few goals so far this season, with Forest conceding 17 and Leicester conceding 22. So you wouldn't expect any of these teams really to keep a clean sheet, the 2 least likely teams to keep a clean sheet. But something tells me that if they're really looking at this game as a cup final, it'll feel very cagey and very tense. No team will want to go wrong at any stage. And I think Leicester have just got more likely players to turn up, like a James Maddison, who could potentially flip the game with a switch, with a set piece opportunity. So for me, I'll go 1-0 Leicester, but I'm not confident in either one of these teams, if that makes sense, to be honest. So guys, that wraps up my predictions for the Premier League for game week 9. Guys, make sure you always comment your predictions as well in the comments down below, so guys, you can have a chance to get into the prediction league. That'll wrap it up for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed the video, please give the video a like. It does tremendous out the channel. Please do hit that subscribe button, as that really does help the growth of this channel when you do that. And please also share the channel too. This really helps the channel too. That will wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are legendary if you saw the end of this video. And as always, I'll see you guys soon. Take care, everyone.